G'day, what a marvellous day it was for Charles Leclerc and Ferrari fans at the Temple of Speed in Monza. Whoa, the crowd went wild when Charles Leclerc crossed the line in front. In fact, for the last 10 laps of the race, I was up here with this magnificent view. And every time Charles came past in those 10 laps, the crowd would cheer opposite me. But once the race had finished, they went absolutely berserk. And of course, this track sees the very best fan invasion. They come from a couple of hundred metres past the finishing line and they stream onto the track, but only after the two big flags are allowed on first. Now, I was here in 2019 when Charles won that race. That was the race after Spa that Charles also won, but of course he never got to celebrate that because of the death of Antoine Hubert. But in 2019 and yesterday, he was the king of Monza. Probably the king of Italy. Yes, the team were jubilant and keen to get down to Parc Fermé quickly to greet their star driver. Fred Vasseur is seen here being hugged by the CEO of Ferrari. And then we have this spectacular view. Now, this is actually 7 photos stitched together to make one amazing panorama. And coming up shortly, I'll be offering this as an amazing large format print. Yes, there were flares. Yes, there were happy people down there with their phones. And yes, it is raining right now. That's what you can hear. Thankfully, that wasn't yesterday. And the view from the podium is quite remarkable. I was actually shooting some stuff up there on Friday night. This is what Charles would have seen, albeit filled with these people here. And this is the walkway he walked across to get to the podium. Of course, this is a rare podium in so much it's out over the track. Abu Dhabi now has a podium similar to this, but not on this grand scale. Now, let's go to the press conference where Charles was centre stage with the McLaren drivers, Oscar and Lando, either side, and you could tell from their body language they were not happy. Many pundits saying it was just poor strategy that cost them the race. Down in pit lane later, McLaren was the first to go with their celebration. They were all set up, although the drivers weren't looking too happy. And then just about when they're ready to do their shots, Charles came out from the garage and he darted straight over to the pit wall, jumped up there, much to the delight of the thousands who were still out on pit straight. Security had previously advised us we weren't permitted to get up on that pit wall, but I can tell you, when Charles came out, 50 or so photographers and cameramen were out there covering the event. And while I couldn't get up to the top level, I did shoot these shots of the crowd below. Now, let me tell you about the smell. It is something else. The smell and the heat from such a throng was, have I experienced that before? I don't know. It was certainly pungent. Of course, it was a very hot day and these people were jammed together like sardines, but they weren't unhappy about it. They got to see their hero. A little earlier, I was sitting up in the media centre and we get a view of pit lane from there, and I saw McLaren's CEO, Zak Brown, out there handing out hats, but he also signed a few, including a Ferrari hat, which I thought was great of him. And earlier in the day, I found Zak Brown dressed in racing gear. What was this about? Well, it turns out he was going out to drive a 2012 McLaren, I think it was. And he's number 23, I see. Let's go now to the Ferrari celebration. First up, we had the team in place. Charles came in. He was on the receiving end of plenty of hugs. And then he went to sit down, and then somebody opened a bottle of champagne early and started spraying it, to which he responded by jumping up. Eventually, he took his position. Then Carlos came in, and then more champagne started before they had a chance to pose for the photo. And after that false start, everybody resumed their positions, and the celebration shot was done. Let's go back to pre-race. And I was waiting for the drivers to come back to the grid for the national anthem, and know that at the track the announcer gives them a 10-minute warning and then a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So all of the drivers know that they have to be at the grid by the 0 mark. Well, plenty of them weren't. In fact, many of them were sprinting down pit lane in order to get to their spot on the grid. And this photo was one of my favourites, with Pierre and Lance Stroll having a laugh on their way. And we don't often see Lance carrying on. He was certainly in good spirits and having some fun. Although later in the day at the press conference, I had to laugh. In fact, the whole media centre went up in laughter when Oscar Piastri said you had Stroll driving like it was his first go-kart race, and I don't know what went through his brain when he saw his blue flag. But the way he delivered that line was gold, and a lot of you saying he's got Kimi Raikkonen sort of tones, a dry assassin. Speaking of Kimi Raikkonen, he was at the track on the weekend with his wife Mintu, with their 2 youngsters, and Robin here is earmarked for a career in motorsports because he's already doing great things in go-karting. Last time I saw Kimi at the track was when? 2022 at this race. And a couple of you said he's so cool he doesn't even need to wear his pass. And that's an interesting thing because security, it's a nice storm, security will often pick you up if you're not wearing your pass, but I doubt they would worry too much with Kimmy. Let's move on to Franco Colapinto. What a remarkable debut for the young man. Finished 12th. And did you see Fernando's comment? Something along the lines of, if I'd known he was behind me, I would have let him pass. Because obviously, if you're not in the points, it doesn't make much difference for Fernando whether he comes 11th or 12th. But a lovely comment, I thought. And I tell you who would be breathing a big sigh of relief today, and that is James Vowles. He put a lot of trust in Franco, and a lot of us were thinking, what has he done here? Put in a young boy for 9 races who's unproven. Well, it was a great start, and I don't think he could have hoped for a much better start. And I spoke to him in the morning. I said, what word sums up your mood today? And he says, this is the greatest day of my life. And then he went on to say that he'd worked long and hard to get to this point, and yeah, it was reward for effort. Earlier in the day, Gabriel Bartoletto astounded all of us in the media centre in the F2 race, coming from last to finish first. We wish that happened more often in Formula One. That was a real turn-up. And there's the lightning. Did we have any puppies in the paddock? Yes, 2. Kika brought Simba, and Alexandra had Leo. Very popular on social media, those two, and with pets, even more so popular. I quite like this picture of Flavie Barlow with Esteban Ocon coming in with her hair bouncing around. Bernie Eccleston was at the track with his wife Fabiana and their youngster Ace. Bernie is a rare character. At 89, he has a 4-year-old son. Other family photos. Oh, the Wolves. Toto and Susie brought their youngster Jack to the track and agreed to pose for this picture early on Sunday morning. If I go back to Austria 2021, I took this picture of Gerhard Berger getting out of a car with the Crown Prince of Bahrain. And yesterday I caught the pair arriving together with Gerhard's wife. And I have to say, the Crown Prince is a fair character. He's not what I typically thought of as a prince. He's just a regular guy like you and me, if you're a guy and you're regular. Here are a couple of Jackies who were a big hit with the media. Jackie X and Jackie Stewart, who posed for some photographs in front of a wall of photographers. Oh, and if you were there on Sunday, you would have laughed, because this fella here is Jean-Michel. He's one of the Formula One cameramen. Been doing it for years, and he's very focused on getting clean shots. So every time somebody would stand in this area here, he'd race down there and tell them to move, and he did it on numerous occasions, and he was quite forceful with them, but always thanked them after they moved. So if you're ever in a situation here, and there's a wall of photographers and you don't want to get shouted out by some Formula One cameraman, just be very aware that if you walk into the shot and get your selfie, you're going to have a handful of people screaming at you. Speaking of fans, and they are some of the best that we see in the world, there were some interesting outfits. This young lady here with a custom printed Charles and Leo shirt caught my attention, as do these people out here with signs near turn 1. Some of you may recognise this fellow. This is Theo Hernandez. He is a footballer with AC Milan. But what caught my attention was his 27-year-old tattoo artist and fashion model girlfriend, Zoe Christofoli. I think she wins the prize for the most tattoos I've ever seen on a woman at the track. Were there any other celebrities or stars at the track, you ask? Yes, Sir Michael Douglas was there. Some Olympic athletes from the Italian team, and this man mountain, Teddy Riner. He's won 11 World Championship gold medals in judo. Oh, and on top of that, 5 Olympic gold medals. Would not want to be getting into a scrap with him. And on the drive into the track, I did notice this woman on a couple of days with this sign. Now, you're here every year, aren't you? Were you here last year?
Yes.
And does Daniel see this?
Yes. He signed my cap.
They opened the window and he signed the cap, and we took a picture.
If you haven't been to the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, I'm going to suggest it's not a bad one to come to. The atmosphere is electric on race day, the crowds are passionate, and it's almost always hot. Well done to Charles Leclerc for the double. He won his home race in Monaco, and he won the team's home race yesterday in Monza. Hey, can you please like the video and subscribe if you haven't done so? And click around here for a whole lot of extra content, and keep an eye out for this unique panorama print of the Monza post-race invasion. Thanks for watching.
And stay passionate.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. G'day,